Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, especially those of you who are here live. And live means 7:30 a.m. Philly time, Saturday morning, 90 minutes before I hit the airwaves on CNN. And if you've never been here before, it's sort of an informal opportunity for me to read comments, try and respond to some, give you a little show preview, and or talk about anything else that happens to be on my mind. Uh, there's a relatively small but very loyal group who are here Saturday morning after Saturday morning. And I get to know many of the names. Fabrizio, by way of example, as I look at the screen. And I really thank you for that. But because you are the most loyal, this is sort of a shareholders meeting that I want to very briefly conduct. And then I want to talk about the issue of the day, which is pandemic politics and political inconsistency. And I'll try and make my abbreviated case for you in just a moment. But to you, the shareholders of all things related to my professional endeavors, I have this idea, and I've been rolling this idea out incrementally in the last couple of days, even weeks, as we've perfected our production values for cameras in the studio. And this is the way that I would explain it. I have this website. It's Smerconish.com. It's sort of the hub. It's where all the spokes of my different activities and platforms are connected. The crux, the core of Smerconish.com are the 20 aggregated links that I hand select every day to try and provide balance in terms of the whole world of news around us. In addition to that, there's exclusive content. There's content that is written just for my website, largely by academics who are looking for a place to share their viewpoint. There's a full-time editor of the website and the newsletter, which I'll address in a moment. His name is James Meadows. He's great. He's totally invested in that exclusive content community, and he's really been responsible for attracting some quality work. So at Smerconish.com, you get a number of things, but the first that you receive are the 20 aggregated links, and you also get the exclusive content. And of course, every day there's a survey question of the day. The survey question of the day, shareholders, is intended to provide radio fodder, good talking point for my programming, and also for your water cooler. And truth be told, I want you to come to my website to see everything else that's going on. And I drive you often to the website because I have a provocative question on which I want you to vote. Just total transparency. That's what's going on here. Okay, so that's Smerconish.com. And then there's the daily newsletter, which is my passion project. I so love the newsletter. I just sent an email minutes ago to TC and to James when I saw this morning's edition. And I said, this is really a quality product. And we provide all of this for free. You may have to endure some ads, including here at YouTube, but I don't think that's really so burdensome. But the newsletter, I just love it. I can't tell you how much work goes into it, how much reading I'm doing constantly all day long, especially at night, especially beginning at 4:30 in the morning, and just trying to come up with a balanced presentation of what I think you need. Because my whole mantra, which I believe to my core, is that people need to mix up their media diet and stop being so dependent on one end of the spectrum or the other. Okay, I don't want to get long-winded, but so there's the newsletter. And, you know, if you only saw the way the sausage is getting made, because it's me collecting links all day long, very early morning, sending them to TC. TC organizes them, sends them back to me. And then I sit there like judge, jury, and executioner, and I decide what's going to make the cut for the day. You know, are we going with the Ketanji Brown Jackson ceremony yesterday? What about that Hunter Biden laptop? How about the latest with regard to that horrific strike against a train terminal in eastern Ukraine, where evacuees, 50 of them plus, were killed by the Russians? You know, what should I put out there? And I send the list back to James, and then he does the dispatch. He writes headlines, he assigns art, tries to keep me out of copyright trouble, and then the newsletter goes off. The latest figures are 75,000 plus who have registered. There are subscribers, but it's free for the newsletter. And I get it. Today, everybody's got a newsletter, but most of the newsletters that are out there are hawking their own content, right? You go to a news source and they say, sign up for my newsletter. Well, they want to bombard you with their news links. What's unique about mine is that, my balance delivered daily is our slogan, and that's what we're seeking to do. And it's a compendium. I know there are paywalls, but if you scroll through, at least you'll get an insight into what's going on in the day. Okay, so then, you with me so far? By the way, shareholders, how am I doing? Just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Do you like the shareholder meeting? Yes or no? Shall I continue? I'm looking for some signs. Okay. Yeah, you're into it. Okay, you want to hear all this. You want to hear it. Okay, good. Okay, right. All right, thank you. Okay, so there's Smerconish.com. You know what it stands for, and I'm about to redesign it, but it'll continue with the same message. Then there's the newsletter. Okay, then what we've grown accustomed to doing, and those who listen to the radio show, and I know you shareholders, you hardcore, and I mean that in the best of respect and gratitude, you already know this. The radio program gets sort of progressively lighter. The 9 o'clock hour, the first hour, is the hard news of the day. It's the front page. It's me talking about the big story, if there is one. Second hour is usually an interview with a newsmaker, similarly about a big story of the day. Third hour gets lighter. That's sort of the shits and giggles portion of the program. And then the final half hour, it's like, okay, TC, with homage to Howard Stern, because nobody does this better than Robin Quivers and Howard. So am I ripping them off? You could say that I am, but I'm doing it with total attribution. So is it really a ripoff? But then I run through the headlines with TC in the final part of the program. Well, wait a minute. The headlines that I'm running through are drawn from the daily newsletter, which are all posted at the website. So how about if we bring it all full circle now, where we've got cameras in the studio and we are putting video up every day, one element not to exceed 20 minutes on the YouTube channel, like this that I'm speaking to you right now. I'm speaking to you live, but many more will watch it later at their leisure. So here's the idea. The newsletter targets to come out at 7:30 a.m. Philly time. And James is good at getting it out by 7:45. Shit happens. So sometimes it runs late. I get it. So what if this live gathering of ours on a Saturday morning at 7:30, and I don't know if I can pull this off. This is really burdensome for TC and me. But what if this kind of live gathering were at 7 a.m. most weekdays, and it's what you see on the YouTube channel when we do the headline. So it won't just be me. TC will be with me, and we will be live in the radio studio at 7 a.m. with all of you, if you care to, watching live. And then the link of the newscast from the newsletter headlines will be linked in that morning's newsletter. If we do this between 7 and 7:20, the link then goes in the newsletter. James sends off the newsletter, and you will have a choice. Maybe you can't be here live. But you will now have the option, when you get the daily newsletter, to click on a link within it and watch the headlines. That's the idea. So we're going to try it on Monday morning, God willing and all things being equal, right? As my friend Sid Mark would say, God willing and all things being equal. Hopefully Monday, we'll try it as an experiment. So if all goes according to plan, 7 a.m., this is where you'll find me. I'll be joined by TC. We will run through the headlines drawn from the newsletter. The newsletter will not yet have been published, but of course, I know the content. As I'll be speaking, James will be whipping it into shape. And then the newsletter comes out. It's got a link. You click on, and you can't be here at 7. That's okay. No sweat. But just know that as a registrant for the newsletter, embedded within it will be the click. And it occurs to me, maybe you can't watch, but you could click and you can listen from YouTube. All right, so yeah, a live clickable newsletter, Cliff, kinda. Yeah. Okay, so Nancy says, Nancy Toroyan, I hope, Nancy, I'm doing right. Nancy says, am I going to get a notice? Nancy, I don't have this figured out. I keep asking the guys at Creative Outfit. They're the experts. They'll figure it out. Somehow you all get notification that I'm here at 7:30 on a Saturday morning, or do you just know that I will be? I don't know. But whatever you have to do here, ring the bell, subscribe, whatever the hell it is you have to do for YouTube, do it so that you get notification. But what I want to do is get into a routine where you'll just know that most days you're going to find me there. Most days, 7 a.m., boom, that's where you'll find me. And there will be things that will make it impossible. I do a lot of CNN work in the early morning hours live on their New Day show, so I can't interfere with that. Sometimes for radio, guests are only available as a pre-tape. So there'll be hiccups along the way. So Marcy says, I got notified that you'd be on in 30 minutes. Yeah, I just, Marcy, I don't know, man. I got to understand this. I'm a content guy. So anyway, so that's the plan. Thank you, shareholders. I guess if you're the shareholders, that makes me the chairman of the board. So I just wanted to run that by you. And what I will do is I will read your comments later. They're scrolling too quickly and I've got work to do. But I wanted to kind of, lay out for you what's going on. There are commercials. Can't do anything about the commercials. Okay. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. The cameras, the production, the people who work for me, it all takes money. But the content's all free. The newsletter's free. The website access is free. So I'm providing the balance that I think people desperately need. That's it. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Survey question at Smirconish.com today. Should President Biden fulfill his campaign pledge to forgive at least $10,000 per student loan borrower? He said on the campaign trail that this was something he was going to do. You know that there has been forbearance, I think 7 times over. They've extended the forbearance period for people who owe for student loans. And the most recent extension goes through August 31. There's no way that'll be the final extension. No way. There's no way that just like Labor Day, think of Labor Day weekend on the cusp of the midterm election cycle, there is no way that they're going to say, okay, now start repaying your student loan. So mark the tape. That's my prediction. It'll get extended beyond the midterm election, in my opinion. But here's the issue. And I know that there was the Gridiron Dinner super spreader event last week. Thank God most of those people are asymptomatic, even if they have it. I know that in half the states, COVID's on the rise. But generally speaking, is the pandemic not in our rearview mirror? If the pandemic is in our rearview mirror, how can you say we need to keep pushing off the time period for the repayment of student loans? Because the premise of giving people slack to repay their student loans is that we're in the midst of a pandemic and people can't work. But wait a minute, unemployment's now at a record low. That doesn't totally jive. Here's something else that doesn't totally jive. Title 42. Because I seek inconsistency by R's and D's. The R's want pay up of the student loans, right? But the R's similarly are saying you better keep Title 42. Title 42 is the legal justification to deny asylum. Why? Because those migrants coming into the United States could be carriers of COVID. Oh, wait a minute. You Republicans who say pandemic, rear view mirror, start paying your loan, are now saying pandemic, still a threat, keep out the migrants, they could be spreading. And it's not just the Republicans who are hypocritical, in my opinion, the Democrats are hypocritical too. right? Because the Democrats say, pandemic, give forbearance for student loans. But at the same time, Democrats say, get rid of Title 42. We don't need to be worried about migrants coming into the country with COVID. Wait a minute, Democrats, which is it? If the migrants are no longer a threat of spreading COVID because the pandemic's no big deal, then why is the pandemic a big deal to have to say to those who owe on their student loans, hey, don't worry about it now, because we know the pandemic's bad. Nobody else is calling this out. The Wall Street Journal came closest, but they only pointed to Democrats. No, the hypocrisy is all over. Consistency is what's missing. And so my thesis today is that pandemic politics are now shaping the midterm, and ideology matters, not critical thinking. That's the premise. That is the premise. And that's what I'm gonna lay out today on CNN. Let me just see if I can read a paragraph or two to you. Democrats who say the COVID-related border restrictions need to end are arguing that loan forbearance continue due to COVID. That's not consistent. Republicans who say we need to keep border restrictions tied to COVID argue that loan forbearance tied to COVID is unnecessary. That's not consistent. And so I shall argue the case today on CNN. Other things that I will do, in addition to talking about political inconsistency and pandemic politics and the student loan issue, Richard Clark is the former national security advisor to several presidents. He often turns to fiction to make his points about very serious issues. He thinks that he can draw more public awareness about, in particular, the threat of cybersecurity. He's done it again. He will be my guest. Michael Bamberger, Philly guy, golf guy, formerly SI, now golf.com, will join me from Augusta to talk about Tiger. Didn't have as good an outing yesterday as he did on Thursday, but he made the cut. Love this story. Love the Tiger Woods story. And Ambassador Brzezinski, as in son of Zbigniew, brother of Mika, Polish ambassador to United States ambassador to Poland, will join me. And I have to ask him, how many sanctions are left in the cookie jar? Every time you hear that there are more sanctions, I can't get Animal House and double secret probation out of my mind. Remember Dean Wormer puts the boys on double secret probation? Like, what's double secret probation? That's what I think of with sanctions. We'll sanction them. If 50 people are dead because Russia launched a missile at a train station packed with evacuees, then put every effing sanction into the mix. A month from now, I don't want to hear, we're going to sanction them, because I'm going to say, what sanctions didn't you use after this? Am I the only one thinking about that? Every time I hear it. So I will ask Ambassador Brzezinski, like, have we finally exhausted, the cupboard of sanctions? I hope so, because otherwise I'm going to think sanctions are bogus. All right. So if I had a gavel, I would clank it and I would declare that this shareholder meeting is now being adjourned. I'm going to go have my noggin powdered. I wish all of you a great day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking an interest in the things that I do. I'll plug TC, because her TC After Dark episode this week is another diary. I haven't heard it yet, but I will today. I listen to her stuff on weekends when I get caught up. But every day, she's like eager for me to leave the studio so she can turn on the microphone and say things about what just happened in the studio. So got to keep an eye on that. And you might want to keep an ear on that. All right. Thank you. I'll read your comments later in the day, and maybe you'll join me on Monday morning, God willing, all things being equal, at 7 a.m. Philly time. We'll see how it goes. See you, everybody.